Hey family. So today is going to be a different kind of vlog. I'm going to have a different series of vlogs this time. This is going to be my thoughts. That's what the vlog is going to be called, my thoughts. Basically what it's going to be about is my thoughts. What I think about every day, current events that are happening, my thoughts about them. So yeah, and this is going to be all unedited because if you're talking about your thoughts, you can't edit them. If you edit them, that means you said something that you're not sure or proud of saying. Basically, you're regretting what you said. I don't regret saying anything. If I contradict myself, it's because most people do. You talk about one thing and then you learn something different and you think a different way. So this first one of the series is going to be just about me, who I am. If I tell you about who I am, then you can see where my thinking is coming from. So I was born in Thailand in the 80s, specifically 1980. I was born in a concentration camp. And this was during the Civil War. And I was in Thailand's concentration camp for about 2 years. Then my family was shifted to Philippines for about a year. And then we flew to America. And I got to America when I was 3 years old. I don't remember much of it because I was too young to remember anything. But the bits and pieces I do remember, some are good, some are bad. I remember as I grew up in Cambodian American, it was tough. Because at 3 years old, you don't know too much of the language anyway. And then as I grew older, you had to learn English in a Cambodian household. So it's hard to communicate with your family because they spoke Cambodian and you spoke English. So, my parents tried their best to learn English, and I didn't try my best to learn Cambodian. Because every time I tried to learn a word or a phrase or anything in Cambodian, I'd forget because going to school, they only teach you English. And I remember that I was the smallest kid in my elementary school. Very, very tiny kid. And, moving from a concentration camp into America, we didn't have much at all. Actually, when I went to school, in my elementary years, I wore my mom's clothes or my dad's clothes because we didn't have anything. So it was tough, really tough. But as the years went on, you learn. My wife is saying, "Well, because the tide's coming in." No, it's not the tide's coming in. There's just a boat making tides. But yeah, so when I was younger, I was really tiny, wearing my parents' clothing. And it was tough watching the kids, have their own clothing, have Nikes and Reeboks and stuff, and you sitting here wearing your parents' clothes. But at the time when I was young, I didn't know the difference. Regardless of whether I wore my mom's clothes, my dad's clothes, it didn't make no difference to me because as a young person, I really didn't care.
You don't pick.
Yeah, I wasn't picky. Then when I went to 2 different elementary schools. I don't remember the first one. For some reason I can't remember what the first elementary school I went to, but I remember my second elementary school. Lowell Elementary. No, actually Lowell was my first one. Okay, so I do remember the first one. My first one was Lowell, and my second one was day school, BF Day. And I remember when I was in BF Day, I was still tiny and scrawny, and I always got picked on. Getting picked on all the time, and it's tough getting picked on and you trying to learn something. And being bashful and shy, not knowing a lot of people just because you don't fit in. It's like you're from a different planet or something. But the teachers that I had in my in elementary and BF Day was very kind, and she tried her best to help me fit in, teach me a lot of stuff. But a lot of it didn't sink in. I didn't really care for school. I just didn't care. And then as elementary rolled on and middle school rolled on, and now middle school was a big change for me. Middle school was when I thought what I wanted to do in my future. I actually thought I wanted to become a basketball player. Can you believe that? And a lot of us, especially my friends that I made during the years, we all thought we were good basketball players. I mean, we played basketball from, specifically me. I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning outside in the court playing basketball until evening time. We kept ourselves going by buying little sandwiches and a soda or whatever to drink and keep on going. I mean, it was just that type of mentality. I loved it. I mean, I wanted to be a basketball player. And then you start hanging around with people who did the wrong things, like smoke cigarettes, or it's not the wrong thing, but as a basketball player, believe me, you smoking cigarettes, it's gonna kill you. Trying to run around after you smoke a cigarette, boy, you ain't running around, you walking around. How's that? But I started smoking, and high school really started me really smoking. I didn't get picked for the basketball team because, frankly, I tried out, and believe me when I said I was one of the shortest people in that tryouts. I was Asian. They had every other, African Americans or Black Americans or whatever you guys want to call yourselves, or the Caucasians. They're all taller than me. So, of course, I wasn't going to get picked. There was another guy, one of my buddies, who tried out, and he was just as short as I was, and they didn't pick him. So, although they did pick this one Asian guy, although, he was pretty popular in the school, I would expect him to be picked. But I wasn't picked in high school. Then I really started smoking heavily in high school and really didn't know which direction I wanted to go. At the point of the fact that I still wanted to be a basketball player, but it wasn't meant to be. I guess I wasn't good enough. So after high school, not even after, during my high school years, my senior year, this military recruiter came up to me. He asked me if I wanted to be part of the military. So, I did my bit and to see if I would have made it. And, actually I was given the offer to join the military as, military reserve. But I turned that down because my parents didn't want to see me go. So, as you can see, I do what my parents tell me because, they've raised me, so I assume they know what's best for me. So I turned that down, and I started to volunteer for the library in, I think either 97 or 98, I don't remember, it's been a while, as a computer lab attendant. Volunteer just for the sake of volunteering. And in 99, I started working at the library because they asked me if I wanted a student assistant job, which is a temporary job at the library, shelving books. And I also at the time was going to college at North Seattle, majoring in web design. But again, that didn't fulfill me at all. I didn't like the major of web design. I just didn't like it at all. It was not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I still can dabble a little bit, but I just didn't want to do it anymore. So in 2001, as I worked as a shelver for the library, in 2001 I got promoted to a library associate one, which was a permanent position, part-time as a shelver. Mostly it's a shelver. You also do a little bit of clerical job too. And throughout the whole years, I start to realize that I was looking at being a basketball player the wrong way. I want to be a basketball player for the wrong reasons. I looked at basketball players and I saw them with a whole lot of money, women, cars, big houses. And I thought to myself, well, why do I need all that stuff anyway? I mean, yeah, you got a big house, you got so many cars, and you got all the women you want, all these promotions. But then again, it's just, yeah, I know. Inside, I still want that. But again, you can only do what you can do. I mean, yeah, I wasn't picked for a basketball player, but again, not a lot of basketball players. I mean, I wouldn't say not a lot, but there are some basketball players or football players, any sports players, who go bankrupt because they don't know how to spend their money. And I can imagine me doing the same thing. If I was to be a superstar or some basketball player or something like that, I can see myself going bankrupt because I don't know how to manage money. I was never taught how to manage money. Then in 2003, I got promoted again at the library as a library associate too, and most of those guys are clerical guys. They work in a circulation desk, helping you check out books and things of that nature. And then as I grew older and as I started working in the library, from the very beginning, I still didn't know what my end goal was. I thought my end goal was to become an assistant manager at one of the branches of the library. But as I moved towards that goal, I realized that wasn't my passion. It still is computers, but it's not web design. It was more computer hardware. It was more, how do you fix something that's broken? How do you fix a computer that's broken? How do you tear apart a computer? How do you put things back together? That's where my passion was. And so I started volunteering as a computer tech in different locations, different organizations. And in 2007, there were open positions as an assistant manager at different locations, different branches. I think I tried about 2 or 3 times to get an assistant manager job. Never got it. Failed. And then there was an open position in the IT department in the library. And I applied for that one, and I didn't get that one either. Because there was someone who was already there who applied for it, and it was a promotion for him, so he got it instead of me. However, his position became open, and I applied for that one, and by golly, finally, I got that position. So that's how I became an IT guy. And one of my faults in my life is I work too hard. Every day I work too hard. I don't do much of anything but work or study. Studied IT, worked IT. Work, study, work, study. I used to be in a relationship where it fell through because all I did was study and go to work. And some women, they don't like their man studying all the time and going to work and never spending time with them. And I don't blame them. Hey, I do not blame people who are that way because they're that way. It's just that when the things don't work, then you have to split. So all I can do was think about work and study. Never went out, never met women, nothing. I guess that's part of being an IT guy. You just want to learn. You just want to learn. Keep learning. Keep moving. Because technology, there are technologies that fade away very fast, and you got to keep track of, okay, what has gone and what's new, and that takes a lot of studying. Then as my life went on, all I did was work, study, take my mom to the mall or take my dad out somewhere. So yeah, that's it. And And then after a while, I guess my mom wanted me to be with somebody. Stop being by yourself, staying home all the time. So go find somebody. But me, I didn't go out. It was already tattooed in my head that I got to study and I got to work. So essentially, my mom went out there to see if anybody was looking to be in a relationship with me, and so I hate to put you into this, honey, but I was introduced to my wife through her auntie. And the first time I looked at the photo of my wife, number one, I thought she was real skinny, but she was very beautiful. And believe it or not, when I came to America, I never ever went to Cambodia. Never visited, never stepped foot in it. But I met my wife and we chatted for a while. We emailed back and forth. And she seemed like a very down-to-earth person. And I told her that I'm an IT guy. I study. I work all the time. And it's probably going to be hard for you to be with me emotionally because I'm a workaholic. She understood. So after a couple of years? I think a couple of years. I went out to Cambodia to go meet her. Boy, was I nervous. And believe me, I've never flown to Cambodia. And it was like a 18-hour trip going over there. Landing in Taipei first, and then to Cambodia. And I stepped out of that plane, and it was steaming hot. I swear you not. I stepped out of that plane and I started sweating. I mean, it was just that hot. But I actually got off the plane, got into the airport, got to where the luggage was, started wheeling my way out of the airport, and I saw that beautiful lady right there. All I could do was smile. And, as we were going around, we went around and we enjoyed the sights together. We went to Angkor Wat. And, of course, we planned ahead of time that we were going to get married. Let me tell you something, Cambodian guys. This is just for the guys. I don't know about the girls, but this is for the guys. If you plan to get married in Cambodia, make sure you are not a big lug. Because when I got married in Cambodia, I had to wear all these different clothing. And I was too big for some of them. So they had to, I remember they had to put a belt on me, right? So the belt was too small. So what they did was they tied rubber bands so that my belt would fit. I wasn't embarrassed, but it was funny. It was absolutely funny. And the process of getting married in Cambodia is very harsh on your legs. Hard on your legs. I'm sorry, not harsh. Hard on your legs. You have to sit and basically fold your legs back and listen to a sermon from the monks. Or monks pray. Either way you want to put it. Same thing. And they don't pray for 5 or 10 minutes here. We're talking hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And the interesting thing when I got married was you have people behind you that massage your legs as if that's going to work for your legs. Because when I was doing it, my legs weren't the only ones that was hurting. My waist was killing too. So it was an interesting ceremony. I had a lot of fun. And every day that I was with my wife, I fell in love with her more and more. And I didn't know what changes were going to come in the future, but I'm glad it is changed now. But let me finish my story. So we got married, and of course, she couldn't come with me because we haven't done the interviews with the immigration service or anything like that. So I had to say my farewells to my wife, and it was very emotional for me, leaving my wife in Cambodia and going back to America. It hurts, but I knew that I'll be seeing her again. So for the next year and a half or 2 years, we had to do all this paperwork, just to bring her to Cambodia, bring her to America. And after those 2 years, I went back to Cambodia. And I still thought it was hot. I don't care what anybody, I'm not going to get used to that weather. And the second time I went to Cambodia, it didn't feel like she was a stranger at all. Even though we were 1,000 miles apart and we haven't seen each other physically for 2 years. And, my wife was, very hurt because we didn't get the chance to be together. But it didn't seem like she was a stranger. Came in, it was just like we left off. And then we went to the interview for immigration services, and we passed. And I remember that I told my wife that we should make a frowning face because my mom and father-in-law were waiting outside. We should make a frowning face so they think we failed. But we failed to make the frowning face. We were too busy smiling. And when my father-in-law saw me smiling and my wife smiling, he knew right away that we passed. And he was more excited than we were. Sorry, Dad, but I gotta put you in this too. He was so excited that when he was driving, he kind of hit two people. He's driving, not too bad. He didn't hit him too bad. It was just like a nick, And I sitting there thinking to myself, Dad, you're more excited than we are. And so, it was funny. I thought it was funny. My dad's, very, but I thought it was funny. And so on the last day that my wife was going to be in Cambodia, we had to have a farewell party for her. So, my in-laws, they have a farm over there in Cambodia. So we went over to the farm. It's not really I wouldn't call it a farm, but I would just call it a farm. Anyway, we went over there and we had food, singing, dancing. I did some dancing, but I didn't do any singing because at the time I was still shy. I didn't want to sing in front of people because I might sound like an American trying to sing Cambodian, so. But I told my in-laws, we're missing one thing. Because in America, most people in America, if you have a farewell party, you got to have some kind of pizza. It's got to be pizza. You can't have it without pizza. So we went over there, bought some pizza, and believe me, in Cambodia, the pizza don't taste like the pizza here. I know, it just doesn't. They have seafood on their pizza. We don't have seafood on our pizza here. Although you can stick seafood on your pizza, but we don't have it here from shops. So we had that, and we went to the airport, got all the information, went to the airport, and I was very surprised because I didn't see my wife being emotional. She didn't cry. She seemed like normal. She was normal. I go, what? It didn't seem like she was going to miss anything. So as we headed to the airport, I hate to say this, sorry, honey, but as we were lifting off, my wife started to get teary-eyed. So all that emotion was bundled up until we took off. And we got here, came here. Well, we were in Taipei for, 8 hours. That's what's layaway, 8 hours. Goodness gracious. But after that, we came here, and my wife was, yeah, she said it was cold here. Yeah, it is cold. And she came here in January or February, one or the other. The wrong time to come to America, coming from Cambodia, is January or February. Cold days. Anyway, so she came, and guess what? I told her in the beginning that that I'm an IT guy. I work a lot, and I study and blah blah and so forth. But something happened. As she got here, I started to change. Not because she wanted me to, because I wanted to. So instead of being the IT guy who studies and works a lot, I started to go out with my wife. Went out and had go out to eat, go out to movies, go to her family's house. I've never ever went to my cousins or well, that's a lie. I did before, but I don't do that anymore. But yeah, I started going to her family's house, having dinner I had her cousin's house, having dinner at her auntie's house. I started going to watch movies. We started going to events like Puyallup Fair and things. I started to change. And I noticed I started to change. And you know what? It didn't bother me because the change was good. I liked the change. Being out instead of just being stuck in the house. Yeah, and so my journey's still continuing. My wife and I have applied for her permanent residency card. Her current one is a conditional one, which is if you haven't been married for 2 years and you are and you migrate here, then you get a conditional residency card until your second year. I don't know how that went, but I think it's 2 years, and then you have to apply for permanent residency, which means you got to go through the whole bit again. Going back to what I said before, yeah, my extended family, we're not close, and it had to do with the falling out of my parents and my uncles and aunties. If they didn't get along, it looked like the children get along. But I even though we don't get along, I still keep in touch with them. I have them on my Facebook. I have my aunties, my cousins on my Facebook to see what they're up to, and hopefully one of these days I'll have a better relationship with them, so that way my wife can get to know my side of the family. Actually, she's met a few of my relatives already, unknowingly. I mean, it wasn't planned. It was just they were there. But yeah, pretty much that's my story. That's who I am. So this vlog is going to end here, but I'll talk more about my thoughts on certain topics, issues, current events. And if you guys want to pick my brain on any topics, it doesn't have to be IT related, it doesn't have to be family related. It can be about religion, it can be about whether or not I believe in aliens, whether or not the sky is blue. It doesn't matter. Let me know and I'll put some vlogs up about my thoughts. But if not, then I'll just pick a subject that I'll talk about, most likely current events, because all sorts of stuff are happening here in Seattle that I don't like, and that's a vlog in itself. So until next time, family, catch you later.